Hello students, welcome to all in this virtual classes. This class is meant for the BA second year students. The title of the paper is Literature in English. In this video, we will learn the very renowned novel of the Thomas Hardy's, Far from the Madding Crowd. In this video, we will explore or we will illustrate on the major parts or major points of the novel, that is inspiration for the title, and second one, where does this novel has been set down by the writer. If we see the inspiration for the title, LG written in a country churchyard. This is the main source or main origination of this inspiration for the title. Far from the madding crowd's ignoble strife, their sober wishes never learn to stray. Along the cool sequestered valley of life, they kept the noiseless tenor of their way. This quotation is taken out or stated by the Thomas Gray, in which he has written or mentioned this all the description LG written in a country churchyard, and where you can here note that far from the madding crowds is mentioned. This title is mentioned in his poetry or this inspiration. This is the only origination of the inspiration for the Thomas Hardy to set as a title for he considered that this title is appropriate for his novel. The title Far from the Madding Crowd comes from the Thomas Gray's. As I earlier noted that it has comes from the Thomas Gray's famous 18th century poem, that is LG written in a country churchyard. Far from the madding crowd's ignoble strife, their sober wishes never learn to stray. Along the cool sequestered valley of life, they kept the noiseless tenor of their way. Here is some quotation or some lines has been written by the Thomas Gray, and in that quotation or in that lines he has mentioned the title Far from the Madding Crowd's Ignoble Strife. By alluding to Gray's poem, Hardy evokes the rural cultural that by Hardy's lifetime had become threatened with extinction at the hands of ruthless industrialization. His novel thematizes the importance of man's connection to and understanding of the natural world. Gabriel Oak embodies Hardy's ideal of a life in harmony with the forces of the natural world. Though good wine needs two bushel, a good title considerably enhances the attractiveness of the novel. Though there may be nothing in name, a rose might smell as sweet if called any other name. A good title for a novel is half of the battle won. The first aim of the novelist is to attract the readers to his novel. A good attractive title does this work. The title should not merely be attractive but also apt and elegant. It should be above all significant. The title of Hardy's novel Far from the Madding Crowd is not only attractive but also apt, elegant and significant. Every lover of English literature knows the famous lines in Gray's poems, LG written in the country churchyard, that already I have mentioned at first only. Far from the madding crowd's ignoble strife, their sober wishes never learn to stray. Along the cool sequestered valley of life, they kept the noiseless tenor of their way. In these memorable words, Thomas Gray describes the title of honest and simple rustics who lead a simple, honest life in the quiet countryside. Far from the din and bustle, the strife and strain of madding crowds living in cities of so-called civilization, Hardy describes the life of the simple, honest rustics living in the countryside of Wessex. He describes their simple joys and sorrows, their unsophisticated life swinging between laughter and tears. They live far from the madding crowd's ignoble strife. They have no ambitions in life beyond leading a quiet, uneventful life in their countryside, where they were born and where they are destined to die. For such a story, with such a background, with such characters and such a philosophy of life, Could there be a better title than Far from the Madding Crowd? The line was there, but it was Hardy's eye which picked up the line and used it for the title of his novel. It is absurd to suggest that the success of the novel was due to its title. No doubt, the line is charming and attractive, but after all, the title attracts the readers to the novel. Not to itself, it is a means to an end, not an end in itself. The novel takes us far from the strange disease of civilization with its sick hurry and divided aims. It takes us far from the madding crowd's ignoble strife to the cool, sequestered valley where life flows like a stream at its own sweet will. The honest and simple rustics live a simple, honest life free from the ignoble strife. They have a course of their own joys and sorrows, hopes and disappointments, their tragedies and comedies, but they never lose their native nobility in all that they do. The title of the novel hints at all these things, and hence the title is very significant. It is highly significant as the title is both from the point of view of its theme, characters, and background. It is not free from a touch of subtle irony if we equate happiness with nature and happiness with civilization. If we equate peace and quiet with the countryside and strife and sorrow with cities. Why are countryside and strife and sorrow with the cities? Why are these characters Gabriel, Bathsheba, Boldwood, and Fanny unhappy? This is the irony of it that even in the quiet valley of the countryside, blind and malicious fate of disturbs the even tenure of life, the children of the soil and works havoc with their peace and quiet. Their simple virtues and noble innocence are not enough of a protection against the oppression of hap or chance. In spite of their closeness to nature, they are not exempt from the unwelcome attention of malicious and wilful destiny, with the result that they are pine and suffer like other. Not far from the madding crowd, Boldwood and Fanny suffer intensely and undeservedly. Troy meets his doom after a few moments of transitory joy, but Sheba suffers no less, and though she and Gabriel are married in the end, the scars and wounds of suffering are too deep in be effaced. Thus, the title, Far from the Madding Crowd, on one hand hints at the peace and quiet of the countryside, where the simple children of the soil lead a simple life far from the madding crowd's ignoble strife. It also hints at the subtle irony underlying in the annals of the lives of these rural folk. They have also their strife, as the madding crowd has its strife. Perhaps the only difference between their strife and the strife of the madding crowd is that their strife is noble, while the strife of the madding crowd is ignoble. So this is the main source of the inspiration. And in that, already we have learned here that Thomas Hardy's famous poem "Elegy Written in a Country Churchyard." This is the main source of the inspiration for the title of the Thomas Hardy's novel "Far Far Madding Crowd." Subsequently, we will see the next point, that is the setting. Where does this novel has been set by the Thomas Hardy? The novel takes place in Hardy's fictional Wessex countryside in southwest England during the 1860s. The Weatherbury of Thomas Hardy's Far from the Madding Crowd is in actually Puddletown, which is an extremely old village dating back to the Bronze Age. Although some features of the village have changed to surrounding countryside, is very much as Hardy saw it. His novel, Hardy, firmly establishes the imaginative world of Wessex as the setting for the drama of his main characters. Far from the Madding Crowd is set against the landscape around Norcombe Hill and the village of Weatherbury. The pastoral setting of the novel is emphasized by such rustic occupations as sheep washing, sheep shearing, and the buying and selling of sheep at the annual fair of Greenhill. References are also made to farming, harvesting, haymaking, and the transaction at Casterbridge market. So student, this novel has been said it is the imaginary place of the Wessex, and actually this is the place of very back to the Bronze Age, and in this place he has illustrated, or he has focused such things that very pastoral setting it is, where emphasized the various types of rustic occupations like sheep washing, sheep shearing, buying and the selling of sheep at the annual fair at Green Hill. References are also made to farming, harvesting, haymaking, and the transaction at Casterbridge market. So if you see, the Hardy was devoted reader of philosophy, scientific text, the Bible, and Greek literature, and he incorporated much of his knowledge into his own works. One of the most profound influences on his thinking was Charles Darwin, particularly Darwin's emphasis on chance and luck in evolution. Though brought up to believe in God, Hardy struggled with a loss of faith suffered by many of his contemporaries. He increasingly turned to science for answers about man's place in the universe. One of Hardy's central concerns in all of his writing was the problem of modernity in a society that was rapidly becoming more and more industrial. One of his projects as a writer was to create an account of life in his swiftly changing Dorsetshire as it had once been. He was particularly interested in the rituals and histories of that part of England as well as the dialect of its locals. The title, Far from the Madding Crowd, suggests avoidance of the life of a city, modernized government, crowds, and industry. In it, Hardy tries to fashion a portrait of what he saw as an endangered way of life and to create a snapshot for future generations. Thank you students. I hope you have understood the major themes or major illustration about the points of inspiration for this novel as well as setting, how it has said. So thank you once again. I hope you have understood this video or this my lecture. If you are not understand, you can review the same video often. Thank you and see you in the next video. Thank you very much.